I just have an observation real quick before I really get into what the main points are. I was looking at your videos you've done over the past month, and in my opinion, these discussions about politics and leadership and things along those lines have been your most important topics, especially because it's 2007 and next year we're going to have to do some voting. And these are your lowest numbers on these particular posts that you've done here. I can't imagine that people don't have a bigger interest in these topics that essentially will affect all of us. It seems that you have some really good topics, extremely good topics actually, and the political one regarding the leadership seems to me, especially these days, the most important one. And I'm with you. I don't really care for politics so much, but when it affects us, growing older, the older I get, the more important these things become, because these politicians are affecting the way we live and interact with each other, interact with all kinds of other things too. So I just think it's unfortunate. It's just an observation that is not encouraging. You have mentioned some things I never even really considered as far as why government was so important, and the racial element, I suppose, would be one element where government would have needed to exist in a, not necessarily a big way, but a prominent way, where the punishments for this could have been established for just equal rights. I mean, literally. So if a crime had been committed, it was a white-on-white crime, there would be a certain punishment, and a black-on-white crime might not have been an equal punishment. But the laws existed. Let me go back up a little bit. If the standard was white-on-white crime got punished a certain way, and then they didn't treat a white-on-black crime or a black-on-white crime the same way, then that would essentially have been the problem. Beyond the segregation, which would just blatantly discriminate, I mean, just blatant kind of barbarism or segregation that was not unnecessary, and it was fueling the racism. Because of course, if you physically see somebody going into a different door that you as a white person aren't going to go into, you then start treating them like they are supposed to be separate, and they're meant to be separate, and there must be something different about them because they wouldn't have to go into a separate bathroom than you if there wasn't. You alluded to the fact that big government might not be able to protect minorities, or, excuse me, let me rephrase. You alluded to the possibility that if without a big government, the minorities might not be protected, or the people who were needed to have equal rights won't be protected if the big government doesn't exist to protect them. Well, that, I suppose it sounds logical, although a law that is written out and is enforced has nothing to do with how big the government actually is. I mean, we have a particular law enforcement that will enforce the law. It takes one person in government to make the law that suggests that all individuals should be treated equal. That only takes one person to write that down one time. So in theory, a person could be elected to office, write down that law, and be ejected from office within a matter of minutes. So the government, to be moral, doesn't necessarily, or is not synonymous with big government. Moral government is not big government. The big government thing has now become the standard or status quo. Even since, one of the biggest known phrases that Bush Sr. said was, "Read my lips, no more taxes." and then of course what he did was he raised taxes right away, which I would imagine that's probably why he only had one term, is because he blatantly lied, and then Clinton lied, and then Bush Jr. lied, and now what the hell are we going to expect from the next president? And the lie is only getting progressively worse. I would imagine. I don't think Clinton's lie was anywhere close to the lie of George Bush Jr. or even Sr. But it's becoming prevalent now, where these politicians are becoming what everybody has feared politicians to be, which are bullshitters. And now we have a series of candidates we're looking at, potential candidates from the Democrat side and the Republican side, and there isn't any of them worth a damn. I mean, they're all part of the same organization. They're all part of the same establishment. There's nothing good going to come from these people. So in that regard, I suppose I'm part of the people who say, what is there to do? There isn't anything to do. We most likely can't help our situation. What is voting going to do, right? Because if you vote one way or the other, you're going to get the same results. You're going to get several people who are in government to profit, get kickbacks from special interest groups. Whether special interest groups are true special interest groups, like in the view of liberals, or you get special interest groups like corporate America in the interest of Republicans. Two sides to big government. There's the liberal side that requires, at least in their ideology, it requires social programs, pay for everybody to get welfare, to get health care, to get by in their life, because these people are incompetent, so let's just keep them at an incompetent level and pay for them to suck off the tit of the government. Fine. That's not, as you can see, the way I derogatorily explain those ideals. I don't agree with that at all. It would have sapped productivity in this country, which we would have had, we would have realized what we're realizing now several, a few decades ago, had that been more entrenched in our culture and ideology. Big government on the Republican side is all about big military, big brother oversight, Patriot Act concepts and infringements, and just nonsense, just bullshit, breaking the laws of our Constitution left and right. I mean, at least the liberals do not break the laws of the Constitution. Now, they do in a way because they tax the shit out of us, and that's not really constitutional, because we're not, if you look at the Constitution, it says unless they're apportioned, which means they need to be divided up evenly amongst us. So the taxes we pay for for sales tax and for things like that in commerce, and for like the privileges to drive a car, and all the taxes that we pay for these different separate things are appropriate. If you read the Constitution, the taxes on our labor and on our individual efforts should not be taxed by way of, and I'm getting this from the Constitution, this idea. So bigger government is always bad.